Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. During his customary Sunday Angelus, Pope Francis recalled Ukrainian and Russian mothers who have lost their children due to the war in Ukraine. He also exhorted all believers to remember these suffering brothers and sisters in the country. While pointing to the Blessed Mother and her child, the Pope said, "We cannot help but think of the mothers who have lost their children." The Holy Father sought prayers for those mothers, as well as for the soldiers who have lost their lives on both sides. He said this was the tragic price of war, for which we must pray for an end. The Pope said the war continues to take its toll as Ukraine is reeling from winter and the lack of power to heat homes and establishments. The Papal almoner, Cardinal Konrad Krajewski, has expressed gratitude to all benefactors who supported his mission of providing thermal shirts and electric generators to suffering Ukrainians during Christmas time. He thanked everyone who took part in helping the battered and martyred people who are living without water and without power in Ukraine. The campaign, initiated by the Dicastery for the Service of Charity, purchased thermal shirts from various Italian factories at just €5 a piece. The factories slashed the price from €35 to €5 to support the Vatican's humanitarian outreach programme. The Cardinal thanked the manufacturers for their generosity. He said that a lot of thermal clothing was sent to Lviv in Ukraine, from which they were distributed in conflict zones. Generators were also donated to Ukraine using the funds raised by the Dicastery. While baptizing 13 babies in the Sistine Chapel on the feast of the baptism of Jesus, Pope Francis told parents to teach their children the dates of their baptism. He said it was also a birthday, as it is through baptism that everyone is reborn into the Christian life. He told parents that they have the responsibility of making sure their children keep to the path they were put on that day. The Pope said, "Thank you for bringing your children here, for letting them enter the church." He also invited parents and godparents to talk to their children about their baptism, to celebrate its anniversary, and thank God for this grace of becoming Christians. The pontiff exhorted them to teach the children to pray when they are small itself, because prayer is what gives strength throughout life. The Holy See started permitting visitors to pray at the grave of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI from Sunday, January the 8th. In a communiqué, the Vatican announced that the grave will be accessible to visitors from 9 o'clock in the morning. It was on January the 5th that the mortal remains of the former pontiff were placed in a triple coffin made of cypress wood, zinc and oak, and placed in the grave that once contained the coffin of Pope St. John Paul II. Inside the coffins are medals and coins minted in the Vatican during the pontificate of Benedict XVI and the palliums he used to wear. Also enclosed is a metal urn that contains a deed of his life and pontificate. In the United States of America, Republican Kevin McCarthy of California was elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives early on Saturday morning. His victory comes after he faced stiff resistance from conservatives within his own party. In the 15th ballot, McCarthy garnered enough votes to wield the Speaker's gavel. While addressing the House after getting elected, McCarthy told members that it is not how you start, but how you finish that matters. He got over 200 votes on the first several ballots, but was well below the minimum required for the speakership. By Friday afternoon, his vote share increased to 214 on the 13th ballot, and on Saturday he got 216 on the 15th ballot. Last week, the United Nations announced that there were 300 political prisoners among the 7,000 inmates to be released by the Myanmar junta after being granted amnesty. It was last Wednesday that the military announced that it would set free over 7,000 prisoners to commemorate the 75th anniversary of independence from British rule. Although the military did not disclose whether those who were granted amnesty included political prisoners, the UN confirmed it on Friday. Since the military assumed control of the country in February 2021, after toppling the elected government, some 17,000 people have been jailed and more than 13,000 are still languishing in prison. The year 2022 was an alarming one for religious minorities in Pakistan. In January, a Sri Lankan national was lynched in Sialkot, with his body being set on fire. The following month, a man accused of burning pages of the Quran was tortured and killed in the Punjab province. A Protestant pastor was shot dead in Peshawar by unidentified men on motorcycles on January the 30th. This then triggered protests by members of minority communities. A 33-year-old seminarian belonging to the Ahmadiyya community was stabbed to death in May in Okara district. The abductions, rapes and forced conversions to Islam of young women and underage girls belonging to Christian, Hindu and Sikh communities are rampant and went on unhindered last year. Human rights and legal experts say that the legal system in Pakistan has to be overhauled to protect the rights and lives of minorities. Bishop Emeritus of Hong Kong, Cardinal Joseph Zen, had a private audience with Pope Francis during his recent visit to the Vatican to take part in the funeral of Benedict XVI. He was granted an audience at short notice the day after Pope Benedict's funeral. On Friday, the Cardinal met the Pope at Casa Santa Marta, with the conversation reported as being wonderful and warm, according to the Jesuit publication America. The Pope showed the Cardinal a sculpture of Our Lady of Sichuan in Shanghai in China, and the Cardinal expressed his desire that the Pope will be able to visit that shrine someday. He also shared with the Holy Father the pastoral work he has been doing among inmates and how he had baptized several of them. The Pope also permitted the Cardinal to pray at the grave of Benedict XVI. Cardinal Zen was also gifted a rosary and books by the Pope. The Cardinal is currently facing a probe for allegedly violating the national security law in Hong Kong. In Poland, as many as 1.5 million people took part in the iconic processions of the Three Kings in 800 locations on January the 6th. It is the largest representation of Christmas in the public sphere in the whole world. This year, as the processions took place, carols were also sung in Ukrainian to show solidarity with the suffering masses in the country. The Feast of the Epiphany is a holiday in Poland, and in many cities colourful parades take place, retelling the journey of the Three Kings to Bethlehem to visit the infant Jesus and to worship him. This year's motto for the processions was, "The start guides us." The organisers said each person needs good guides in the journey towards Jesus Christ. Polish President Andrzej Duda thanked the organisers for fostering Polish identity and family ties through the public dissemination of nativity scenes and carols in the 21st century. The head of the Maronite Catholic Church, Cardinal Beshara Boutros Al-Rai, is on his first pastoral visit to the United Kingdom. He will be in the country until January the 14th, and his visit is aimed at highlighting the suffering of his countrymen at a time of grave political and economic crisis. According to Fellowship and Aid to the Christians of the East, the concerns of the Maronite Church in Lebanon and the diaspora will also be part of the talks of the Patriarch with church leaders. He will be meeting Cardinal Vincent Nichols of Westminster, the Anglican Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, Cardinal Michael Fitzgerald, Archbishop Bernard Longley of Birmingham, and Maronite parish members in London. Cardinal Al-Rai will also meet members of the Diplomatic Corps, British ministers and lawmakers. Pope Francis has ratified the election of a Syriac Catholic priest who was under Islamic State captivity for 5 months in 2015 as the new shepherd of the Archdiocese of Homs in Syria. The Synod of Bishops of the Syriac Church chose the new archbishops for Homs and the Iraqi city of Mosul. Father Jacques Murad, who hails from Aleppo, was chosen as the new archbishop of Homs. He was kidnapped from his community of Mar Elian near Al-Karatian. After his release, the priest lived in Italy and Iraqi Kurdistan before returning to Homs to start rebuilding the community. He is credited with the reconstruction of the Mar Elian monastery and the tomb of St. Julian, which were destroyed by the jihadists. Archbishop Designate of Mosul, Father Qusay Mubarak Abdullah Hano, was born and raised in Karakosh, one of the cities in the plain of Nineveh. During the ISIS occupation, he was serving in Erbil. The date of the consecration of the two archbishops-elect will be announced later. Israeli police have arrested 2 teenagers for vandalising a Christian cemetery in Jerusalem. Investigators said the culprits were aged just 14 and 18. The duo was responsible for damaging gravestones at the historic Protestant Mount Zion Cemetery on Sunday. Faith leaders, including leaders of the Anglican Church and Jewish leaders, condemned the act. Anglican Archbishop Hossam Naum said he was saddened by the attack on the cemetery. He said that hate speech and hate crimes are on the rise. Security camera footage showed the 2 teenagers toppling a gravestone that was shaped like a cross and smashing others. Their skullcaps and knotted fringes, known as tzitzit, on their attire revealed that they were Orthodox Jews. More than 30 graves were vandalised overall. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more, and do remember, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.